for everyone that's here, we are, okay. Now that we've got our three council members. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is July 20th, 2023, and this is the meeting for the Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment, and it is now called to order. Our chairman, Mike Voorhees, is unable to attend today's meeting. My name is Roberto Seda, and I will be acting chairperson for today's Board of Adjustment meeting. We do have a quorum for today's meeting, having 3 out of our 5 members. However, with everyone who is out there, we want to let everyone know that three members are required to approve any variances or special exceptions on the agenda today, and there are 13 separate items requiring a separate vote on today's agenda. Due to the number of council members, if you do wish to continue your matter to a date in the future, please advise us at this time, and we can definitely take care of that. Otherwise, you will require a unanimous vote, yes vote, to approve any matters on the agenda today. If you wish to speak before the board, there are sign-up sheets outside the chamber. Please hand a completed form to a staff member, and you will be called upon to speak on your designated case. When the clerk of the board calls your case, the applicant will please come forward to the front podium. When asked, please state your name and address for the record into the microphone. Board members may ask you additional questions about your request. Members of the public who choose to speak on the application, please remember to direct all comments and questions to the board and not to the applicant or protester, as may be. The chair will entertain a motion to receive the minutes of the June 15, 2023 meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 15th, 2023 meeting.
We have a motion?
Second.
Second. Motion does pass. At this time, are there any requests by applicants or the public for a continuance? We do not. Okay. There are no items on the consent docket. However, we do have some matters that are being withdrawn.
We have item number 14, case number 15397 has been withdrawn. Item number 15, case number 15387 has been withdrawn. Item number 16, case number 15081 has been withdrawn.
Seeing none, no others. Do we have to take a vote on that? No. No? Okay. All right.
Yes.
We do. Okay. All right, because they are withdrawn, council is advising that we do not have to have a motion vote on that. So we will then go to proceed to the agenda. Will the clerk please call the first case?
Item number 1, case number 15420, a renewal of a special exception of Laney Purse to allow a mobile home to serve as a temporary second dwelling to relieve a medical hardship in the AA Agricultural District located at 11900 Southeast 44th Street.
The special exception for the mobile home for my sister who is having medical problems. She has COPD and macular degeneration, and it's getting worse. After 3 years, she's getting worse. So I would love it if you could renew. Sorry, it's been a day. I would love it if you could renew that at least for 3 more years.
Just a few questions. The original application was a 3-year.
3 year, yeah. I
three-year
didn't know if you have it longer or not, but I understood that we tried. I looked around, I looked to see if we could get a rezoning and all that, and we're all on Social Security, so we couldn't afford it. It was too expensive. And we've had no complaints from any neighbor. I sent pictures of the mobile home. I don't know if you saw those, but
Yep. And we have that. I just didn't know the duration of the original
it was the same.
variance, and then,
Yeah, it was the same, just a renewal.
and so a renewal for us would be 3 years again. Okay. If I had to just check and see if there's anyone here to speak on that.
I don't have anyone signed up to speak on this matter at this time. Do we have any other questions?
With that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15420, renewal application for a special exception to allow mobile home on the basis that it meets the statutory requirement for a special exception for 3 years.
Second?
We have a motion and a
that it?
second.
Thank you. Thank you, bless you.
Item number 2, case number 15361, a request of Johnson Associates on behalf of the Hub at Midtown to allow a variance to sign regulations and off-street loading requirements in the DTD1 district at 120 Northwest 120 Northwest 12th Street and 101 Northwest 13th Street.
Before we speak, I want to make sure that I did not see the results come up on that last one, but it was unanimous. Is that correct? Okay, it did pass. All right. Go ahead and proceed with item number 2, please.
Good afternoon, Mark Zitzow with Johnson & Associates. Address is 1 East Sheridan Avenue. Before you is an exciting project. It's a new multifamily project with an office component on the hard corner of 13th and Broadway for Core Bank. You may have seen this in the news. There have been a couple press releases. We've been to the Downtown Design Review Committee. They've recommended approval of these variances. What we're here asking for are kind of a series of 3. First is maneuvering in the right-of-way. There are 2 driveways highlighted in red where a trash truck will be pulling in and then backing out. So these will occur in the very early morning hours to not impede traffic, and one is off of 14th Street, which is a very low traffic volume street. And so the trash rooms were located there purposefully, one on the northwest corner to service the multifamily, but the one on the southeast corner along Broadway is located purposefully to service the bank building. It's a multi-story building with a trash chute, and so it's really the only spot that could service the office tenant there. The other variances are related to signage. The signage that we're seeking, and by no means is excessive. The Downtown Design Review body conforms to the office regulation signage requirements, and that is a very low amount of square footage for a building of this size. So the variances there are for the number of signs per tenant. Your maximum allowable signage is 1 per tenant. We have 2 tenants here that incorporate 4 street sides. And then the other one is the square footage. Your max is 150 square feet. So the Downtown Design Review Committee reviewed those. They found that the signage was appropriate given the size of the building, the amount of facade, the number of streets. And they also found that the locations for the trash truck maneuvering was appropriate. So we've come to you with the unanimous recommendation of approval for these 3 items. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I don't have any questions. It's just a couple of observations, and I looked at other properties downtown, and they're designed this exact same way for the trash and maneuverability in the right-of-way. So I don't have any problems with any of them.
Yeah, I'll add that the trash maneuvering, one of the benefits of a project like this that has been a struggle for downtown apartment projects is really figuring out the trash. So there are several that are actually pulling their dumpsters out and leaving them in parking spaces, and so they're sitting out in the public way. And I know staff has been working on trying to figure out the best way. In this scenario, we actually have the dumpsters and the compactors within the building with roll-down doors, so they'll only be opened when trash comes, and then truck pulls in, lifts the dumpster, puts it back, and leaves. So in this scenario, it's actually much less of a visual impairment to the streetscape.
Is there a certain time that the trucks themselves will be expected to be, I guess, taking the trash out or whatever you may call it?
So it's the tenant's preference and the developer's preference that it's going to happen very early in the morning. That has not been worked out yet with the service provider. So in terms of time frame, we can't necessarily dictate it now, but part of the agreement and conversations with the city staff is that it's not going to happen during peak hour. So it's not going to happen between 7:30 and 9:30 or 4 to 6 when Broadway is busiest.
Any other questions from the board members? Do not have anyone signed up to speak on this matter. Ready for a motion?
With that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15361, request for a variance to the sign regulations and off-street loading requirements.
A motion?
On the basis that it meets the statutory requirement for a special exception.
Second.
Oh,
I think it was stated that meets the statutory requirements for a special exception, so I think we did intend for that to be variances. I'd like to amend. All right. You're approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 3, case number 15370, request of Grubbs Consulting for a variance to parking and maneuvering and signage in the public right-of-way in the C3 district located at 5101 North May Avenue.
Yeah, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant. So what we're asking for today is a bit of a stopgap. The reason being the right-of-way that we seek to be able to park and maneuver in is actually already been closed by the city council. As of this Tuesday, we're actually going to move forward with a vacation action as soon as next week, but we are ready for permit. And so to enable us to move forward with our permit, we need the variance that will no longer be necessary at the time in which the district court vacates that right away and my client owns it all. But because we have tenants ready to move, we need to be able to submit for building permit now. So this variance would simply further what the city council did on Tuesday in closing that right of way. Be happy to answer any questions.
and the variance is just going to allow parking on it,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, so you can see in that salmon-colored stripe, the parking that's shown there would otherwise not be allowed. So what would happen is you push those buildings even further back. There's a desire by the council person to push those buildings as close as possible. This is where we ended up. So that parking that's shown in the salmon won't be in right-of-way once we go to district court. But again, the timing of it is problematic, which is why we're here today. This will allow us to move forward in 10 days rather than 2, 3, 4 months. Who knows how long the district court will take to get us, a journal entry on that.
But they're just going to construction right now. There's nothing built over that right now anyways. I remember this came to planning commission and we approved. the
Correct. It was a
vacation.
church. for a long time. The same developer that is developing this is who owns all of the Mayfair Village. So if you've driven by there recently, there's been a tremendous amount of redevelopment, new buildings, refreshing of all of the buildings. They've done a whole bunch of good things on a strip center that was in need of something. So this whole site's been cleared. There will be a series of 3 buildings. The first one that's going to come online will be the middle pad. And you can see in the renderings, I think it shows 2 separate tenants that I think will be viewed as beneficial by many.
And the variance for the signage is just temporary signing?
No, so it'll be the signage, but it's not a size. It's just allowing us to put it there, which is consistent with what you see in this area.
Which probably be vacated before the signs got erected anyways, most likely.
Maybe, yeah.
I did see a note in there that said you couldn't put a sign over the top of the water line easement. I'm sure they.
Yeah, whatever, we'll have to coordinate with staff and permitting and all those things.
Any other questions from the board? I don't have anyone signed up from the public to speak on this matter.
Okay, with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15370 for a variance to parking and maneuvering and signage in public right-of-way.
Second?
Thank you.
You're approved.
Item number 4, case number 15415, a request of John Rinke on behalf of Ty Phillips for a variance to side and rear yard setback regulations in the R1 district located at 3400 Northwestern Avenue.
Do we have anyone to speak on this application? Seeing none, do we want to continue this?
Maybe move to the end just in case.
Okay. So as advised, we will move this case number to the end of the docket. So we will go ahead and proceed to the next item.
Item number 5, case number 15417, request of Adam Holder for a variance to accessory building regulations in PUD 1573 located at 10400 Northeast 144th Street.
Hello, my name is Adam Holder, 10400 Northeast 144th Street. We are requesting a variance to the setback regulations for accessory buildings to be built ahead of the rear wall of the main structure. My wife and I had just completed a similar accessory building at our previous residence in Edmond when we found out we were expecting our 3rd child unexpectedly. So wanting to expand, we sought out a similar neighborhood, specifically a new construction neighborhood in the area that would allow us to build a similarly sized accessory building. We've known about Cambria Heights for several years, from the very beginning, from the covenants that were filed back in 2017, all the way to the original builder's model home, which was built by Q5. It's listed phrases like shop approved, shop friendly, so it's been an attraction for us for a while. And so we did review the covenants and restrictions for the HOA before we purchased the property, moved in. Because we were familiar with the permitting process for the city of Edmond, we knew that we had to file a permit with the city of Oklahoma City, submitted the permitting process, and then we received the corrections required notice that said, hey, there is a requirement here that it needs to be behind the main setback wall of the main structure there. As you can see, we took a number of pictures of the property to kind of help show the area. Certainly from the street, having a nice big flat pad right next to the house was ideal before we knew about that regulation. Also wanted to show in particular the slope that comes up off of the back. So there's about 28 feet or so in between the rear stem wall and the beginning of that slope, which would prevent us from building the proposed building that you see in the packet before you. And so what we're asking is that we build that ahead just enough to allow, again, the minimum variance required. We were a bit surprised that it was rejected. If you drive around the neighborhood, there are at least 2 that we can see that were built ahead of the rear set wall, so we feel that the precedent has already been set. But again, we like to follow the process. We want to make sure we're meeting all the requirements and hearing any concerns that are voiced. So again, the photos there kind of show a little bit of the backyard. We socialized the idea with 5 neighbors, 4 of which do not have shop buildings, and received 100% of their support with no concerns voiced. Specifically, we wanted to talk to the neighbors on either side of us because we feel like it would involve them the most. And also in the pictures, you can see that they have split-facing garages. And I made a little mention of this in my application to where basically we're trying to set up the same thing, just with a detached structure. We'll have a side entry garage as is now, and then we'll have overhead doors facing the street, which in our opinion would complement the aesthetics of the homes on either side. And I believe that's all I had kind of listed for my little space here, other than to mention that there are 88 lots in Cambria, 81 are occupied. Of those, 32 have detached accessory buildings. Of those, 29 are metal-faced buildings. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel per se, just asking for your consideration.
Let's hear from them. There was a couple protests. I don't know if anyone's here or not, but
We do have someone signed up to speak on the matter. If they would like to come.
My name is Martha Dietz. I represent 14400 Happy Valley Drive, which is the property right across from there. It's very difficult to see on that map, but there at the backside of the gentleman's property, there's a creek bed that goes across. Right where the word says Happy Valley DR, there's a bridge that goes to our property. It is the only access to our property. Since they put in Cambria Heights, we have had more and more difficulty with erosion, silting, and washing out of that bridge structure. I have called city, state, everybody. They seem to, and I'm not disagreeing with the gentleman wanting the property, wanting his building. What I want is that corner of the property where it says subject down there goes across that creek bed. I need to be assured when you do this, which is fine for him to have the building, that I'm assuring that it's not going to add to more erosion, more runoff. Every place you see in between one of those houses, there used to be a drainage that went across. When they backfilled all of those to put those homes in, they covered those drainages up. I sent in pictures of this horrible drainage we have and what it's doing. We've lost almost 25 feet in depth from the tin horn that goes across to the hole that now exists. It was not like that. It was like 7 feet when we moved in 6 years ago. It's eroding the property. We're going to lose more and more land. Again, I have no problem with anyone wanting to protect their property, increase their size of their property, put in their homes. I just need some kind of insurance that we're not going to lose the bridge. It is literally the only access to our house. And it's going away between Cambria and again, that his property goes right over that creek bed. I don't know, I did show pictures. I sent pictures in of some of the damage that has gone on. Some of them are very difficult to see. I don't know if you need to see these or would like to see any of these. Okay. I can describe what they are as they go. This one is the property, there's 4 houses north of where this is. There's nothing to keep this from draining. These are what the pieces used to look like that they carved out.
Can you please make sure when you're talking to the mic, please?
The slope on the backside of the property, in some cases, like 20 to 30 feet on a slope that has not always been stabilized. And this is just some of the damage. This is not specifically related, as far as I can tell, to his particular property, but this is what has happened just in the last couple of storms. And this was not here 6 years ago when I moved into that property, even though we had those huge rainstorms back then like we have now. We are having horrible, horrible erosion. I have other pictures that are a little bit more difficult to see. All I want is some kind of assurance that if there's anything that happens where we have more erosion, that I have some kind of recourse. I represent my daughter-in-law and my son who owned the property. I'm the property manager.
I just have a couple comments. I'm not sure what the assurance is that we could give on something like this. I definitely see the problem. That is clear. I would advise, I know you said you've already reached out to the city. I would advise press on stormwater quality like that.
I have already contacted them. They said that because the Cambria Heights had all the proper permits, that there was nothing they could do about it. One gentleman came out from stormwater, walked the property 4 days after we had a storm. That is a runoff creek. Should only run during the storm or right after the storm has passed. 4 days later, we were still getting water. He could not identify where the water was coming from. It was from those underground areas where they had covered it up, but he couldn't do anything about it because of the permits that Cambria Heights supposedly had. They also have a runoff pond on the wrong side of the ridge. The runoff pond is on the west side. We live on the east side. That runoff goes directly into, right down to that creek bed. The stuff that comes down from the north along the road, and then from that creek bed goes right across our bridge.
Yeah, I see the issue. I think it's definitely a huge problem. I just don't know that even if this structure contributed to it, I don't know that it's going to make a difference one way or the other, if I'm being completely honest.
And I understand that, but I'm at the point now after 6 years and talking, and I apologize to you, it's not you, but I need someone to hear us. It's just getting that bad. We've had engineers come out and say that it's going to cost a whole lot more money than we have to mitigate something that wasn't our responsibility and has just gotten consistently worse with Cambria Heights development. Then if that's the case, then I need to know where to go next. And again, I have no problem with him putting his building in, not at all. That's not the issue.
Yeah, I would, the only department that I'm aware of that would, this falls squarely in stormwater quality. I think if, one of the things, if you want to take it a step further, would be to review the plan. They call them SWIPs. There's a
SWIP?
SWIP. I believe it's SWPPP. You can review that, and you can find out, you mentioned that they have, some of their improvements are not in the correct location. So one of the things that you can do is you can document what they've turned in as far as the plan that they've submitted to stormwater quality, and making sure that the site improvements are consistent with what's on that plan. If not, you can document that, and that would be something that inspector would have to directly address. So that would be the route that I would take.
Well, like I say, I appreciate the information because I've been doing this for 5 years.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
it's just getting to the point where someday I'm not going to be, if they can't get to work, they're going to get really irritated, and I really don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kids won't mind not going to school, but, so. Okay, well, I appreciate your time,
Yes, ma'am.
and I appreciate, sorry.
I've got a question. You said you'd spoken to a couple of the homeowners. Have you had discussions directly since some of the protests? Have you had any discussions with HOA?
Yes, I have. Yeah, they had actually said, the neighbor to the north had mentioned, oh, I'm surprised it was, a complaint, not with her specifically, but with the other written complaint, specifically about, oh, we drive by and several of these are in front of the setback anyway. Other folks that are hoping to build shop buildings as well. And so that's what we've heard back. But that I did speak to at least one after that complaint. And actually, additionally, I should add that our contractor that we selected is a neighbor in the Cambria Heights neighborhood, and so who has built his own shop and home in the area, and is familiar with the plat, the neighborhood, and several of the neighbors as well. So specifically, I'll say two to be sure.
And I just have a few observations also. And Mr. Holder, I drove the neighborhood just to look and see, and the amount of the variance that you're asking for, how forward you want to put this building, I just can't get behind that. I would need it to be much closer to the back of the home. So with that, and I think you probably heard him say, I'd be a no on this unless you want to make a revision to where that building is located.
Sure, no, I appreciate that. And we did consider possibly could we shrink the building, rotate the building. We get it too close to the back of that back hill without modifications to the scenic tree line and the buffer that's there that kind of helps with the turnpike noise. We'd be a little too close, and we would have erosion concerns as well, so that's why we had done it. We wanted at least a 10-foot buffer from the beginning of that hill, so that otherwise we would push it as far back as we possibly could to be in compliance with the regulation, the ordinance.
Did you receive a copy of the protest Those
Yes.
written emails? Okay. Have you had the opportunity to respond or talk to that individual?
Not individually. I did prepare remarks. If they were here to speak, I'd be happy to address that. I tried to address some of those kind of proactively in my initial request, describing the number of detached accessory buildings, just to paraphrase. Lots of comments about metal buildings are eyesores and just property value decreases. I've seen in our experience that that's actually not been the case. We've actually seen property values increase where I've been previously in a different neighborhood as a result of a well-constructed building. There was one comment from the gentleman that mentioned that folks with detached accessory buildings don't take care of their property, which I would take issue with. One of the reasons why we would like to build the structures to house our lawn care equipment and to do a number of things. If you drive the neighborhood, you see folks in their shop buildings, they're working on their classic cars, they're showing their grandkids a project, they're storing their RV as a home base. It sends kind of a vibe in the neighborhood that we're very excited to see. Before you even enter the neighborhood, you pass 5 roofs of shop buildings, so you clearly know kind of where you live. And again, that's one of the things that really attracted us to the neighborhood. And so, again, we try to be proud of the neighborhood we live in, and I'm sorry that this neighbor doesn't feel that way. I'd be happy to talk with them directly, and again, I planned on addressing them directly, any specific concerns that they have. But just judging from the letter, it seemed that there were more problems with the style of the building, which there are 29 similarly right now in the neighborhood, and also some of the topography that we again don't have control over, and that's why we're here seeking the variance. So I hope that helps address a little bit of that. But I did plan on addressing those if he was here. So
One of the things he mentioned is that many of the accessory buildings that are currently constructed in the neighborhood are behind a stem wall.
sure.
Is that correct? I have
I
not
would s-
driven the
Yeah, I would say a
neighborhood.
majority of them are. He did make a comment also that majority of them were behind a fence, which is not true. I counted 11 of them behind a fence, and there are 18 that are in front or in line with the fence. And in line with that, we were hoping to build a fence to meet either side of the building as well, and then have the building completely surrounded by a fence after it was built. So again, we're trying to be aesthetically pleasing. We'd picked colors that would match the house, and again, had chosen wainscoting, contrasting trim, and guttering to add upgrades and cost, but to also add to the aesthetic appeal and to help with drainage. So we try to put our best foot forward, and again, chose the contractor because he was also a neighbor. We believe in supporting neighbors, local business, and yeah.
I don't have any, I had the one person signed up. I don't have anyone else signed up. Do we have additional questions or comments from the board? Like I mentioned earlier, at the very beginning, I'm just making this observation, is that you need all 3 yeses in order to pass. So the fact that we've got 2 council members not present today definitely makes it a little bit more difficult for you. So I don't know if you would be willing to reconsider and move this out and maybe revise your application so you don't lose your application fee, and maybe address some of the concerns that the board members have expressed, and then come back at a later point. I don't know which way they're going to vote. I'm just kind of making an assumption based off of some of the questions.
And if you want to consider that, just so that it's clear where I stand on it, I would be interested in getting behind this if you had the flexibility to I know you've got a situation, you've got the drop off, I see it there. I do think there's going to be some cost that's going to be involved, particularly just to be able to get the shop to work in that spot, but also make sure that it's not contributing to the issues that already exist. But I do think that it's something that would be possible. The other thing that would persuade me to approve this would be if you could convince your HOA, because that's what this is. I mean, you guys are entering into a private contract to all be bound by the same set of standards, and if you can convince them of it and they say that they're fine and you can come back with a letter from the HOA, then yeah, but those would be the 2 conditions for me.
Understood. And I'll quickly add, I wanted to slightly address their concern, the Dietz's concerns. If you look at the plat, there is a common area right behind our house that it doesn't directly border, but it sits in between our properties. And so as a member of the HOA, as you mentioned, I've not received the letter yet because we just purchased the home in March, but certainly we will be a part of the HOA. part of our responsibility as a neighborhood is to take care of the surrounding areas and the common areas. And so certainly I wouldn't want that to fall on deaf ears today. In a previous neighborhood I lived in, inside Edmond, there was a drainage issue, and the HOA took great steps to make those wrongs right, even if it was the fault of the developer, which it sounds like it possibly is in this case. So just wanted to make sure those concerns were at least heard. They didn't fall into deaf ears, and it looks like that's a serious issue. So certainly we were hopeful with an approval today that if we were to build it as is, that would keep it as far away from the back as possible and hopefully help ease everybody's concerns. But understood and appreciated.
So, again, from what I said, I don't know if you want to defer it or maybe make adjustments to it, but for me to vote yes on this, I would need that building to be moved further back. And so how you want to handle that? Otherwise, I'm going to make a motion to deny.
Okay, so the options are to continue or to defer, and the differences between those are a time limit? Is that correct, or?
Well, our next meeting's August 3rd, and then the one after that's August 17th.
Okay. And either in the same word, does that mean the same thing, continue or defer in this case? Okay. Yeah.
For this purpose, so
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I could certainly make an effort to get additional bids, to check the dirt work, to see what could be done in that time. And so, yes, I would prefer to do that if possible, to see if there's anything we could do and get an idea of the scope. If it looks like something that we, based on that we find out and we decided not to pursue, would we just withdraw the application at that time? Is that the appropriate rule? Okay. Thank you for the help.
Do you have a preference on when you want to come back, knowing that you've got to work with some contractors to get additional numbers?
I would prefer a month, probably at least a couple of meetings if they're scheduled. So if they're every other Thursday, then at least a month lead time just to get additional folks out to take a look.
Okay, I think August 17th is the one in the middle, and then there's September 7th.
Okay, let's go August 17th. That would be great. Thank you so much.
We have a motion to continue, move this to the August 17th, 2023 meeting.
Yep, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue case number 15417 to August 17th.
We have a motion.
Second?
All right, the item has been continued to August 17th. Ready for the next
Did
one?
you see the vote?
Oh, did it pass? We did not see the vote. It did pass. Okay.
Item number 6, case number 15419, request of Williams Box forcing for a variance to front yard setback regulations in R1 located at 14504 St. Maurice Drive.
Once again, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant. The variance before you is a minimal front yard building line setback request. The forms were placed inadvertently 2.2 feet on the wrong side. So we are requesting a variance of 2.2 feet for that slight encroachment. If you look at the street, if you look at the aerial in your packet, the street is not straight. It's a curved street, which, at least in our opinion, kind of minimizes any potential visual impact that may have occurred, because all the houses are going to be staggered based upon what that 20 foot is measured off of that curved street. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
No questions, again, just an observation. I did drive by this one also and looked at it, and it's fine. You can't even tell the difference. The 2.5 feet you can't see, and the way the curve is, and the other houses that are being built there, they all look the same.
Any other questions from the board? I don't have anyone signed up to speak on this matter on the public. Ready to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15419 for a variance to the front yard setback regulations in R1 single family. As it meets the statutory requirements for a variance.
Second?
Motion and a second.
Thank
And
you.
it passes.
Item number 7, case number 15421, a request of Barrett Hartman for a variance to primary access regulations and minimum lot width requirements in the RA2 district located at 11525 South Harrow Road.
Good afternoon. I'm Barrett Hartman, address 11525 South Harrow Road. We purchased this 20-acre tract with the intention of building a residence there. The tract is landlocked. It does not connect with any streets in the area. As part of the sale, there was an easement granted. The easement crosses land owned by the seller of our 20-acre tract. During the closing process, as a layperson, I didn't understand that the lot width requirements would be applied to the width of the easement and not the width of the tract that we purchased. Additionally, concerning the primary access regulations, it was not clear that that was in violation of an ordinance as well. So we're seeking a variance to the lot width regulation because the easement doesn't meet the width requirements. I did approach the seller of the property who granted the easement about widening the easement, and he declined to do that, citing the cost of having it resurveyed. So this is really our only option going forward. One last point, if the easement for the driveway were wider, it wouldn't change the width of the driveway itself, right? It would just give more flexibility in where it goes, and we are prepared to put the driveway within the current narrower easement.
Any questions? I don't have anyone signed up to speak on this. Did the seller, he cited not wanting to pay the cost for an additional survey. If that was an expense that you would be willing to bear, would he be willing to expand it?
I could pay it, but he would still have to agree to grant
Right.
the easement. And from the conversation we had through his realtor, he was unwilling.
Not lot frontage. Breaking the chair.
Any more questions from the board?
No, we've seen these before, right? In just the same situation on a landlocked piece of property. I mean, there's no way to get the frontage on that road. So,
Ready to entertain a motion, I guess.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15421 for is this a variance? A variance to primary access regulations and minimum lot widths as it meets the statutory requirement for a variance.
We have a motion
Second?
and a second.
Thank you.
It passes. Good luck.
Item number 8, case number 15416, a renewal of a special exception for Kyle and Catherine McCoy to allow home sharing at 1920 Runway Boulevard.
Hi, it's Square House Property Management. I'm representing Kyle and Katie McCoy, 1920 Runway Boulevard. It's in the Wheeler District. It's been an Airbnb for about a year approximately with no issues or complaints, and we'd like to request a special exemption for 3 years, for a 3-year renewal. That's all I have.
Do we have any questions from the board?
Just a couple of questions. You're asking for 10 guests,
Yes.
and with that, there's not a number of cars that you state. There's available parking. You can't use the garage, but you can use the driveway, and then some on-street parking. Would you be opposed to limiting the number of cars to 4?
Yeah, we could put something in the restrictions for that.
No other questions? I don't have anyone signed up on this matter. There are no other questions, I guess. We're ready to entertain a motion from the board.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15416 with the written rules as in the application, with the addition of a maximum of 4 cars on the basis that it meets the statutory, for 3 years, yes, and on the basis that it meets the statutory requirement for a special exemption.
Second.
Motion or second? You're approved?
Thank you.
Item number 9, case number 15413, an application of Clinton Whitehead to allow home sharing at 8128 Azurwood Drive.
Hello, I'm Clinton Whitehead, owner of 8128 Azurwood Drive. I owned it for about 12 years. It's been a long-term rental for the last 10 approximately, and I'm seeking to convert it to a short-term rental. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2 full bath. Maximum 8 recommended, or 8 occupancy, and let's see what else. 2 full baths again. It's got the standard wooden, 6-foot-high wooden fence around all 4 sides. Plan to basically have 2 people per bedroom maximum. Has master held a king, then there'll be 2 queen beds, and then a full in the 4th bedroom. Quiet time is 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. Parking will be, they can park in the 2-car garage, or there's 4 spots in the primary driveway, double-car garage. And then also I just added, they poured it late yesterday, I've got pictures of expanded driveway next to adjacent property. So there could be parking there, but one of the ideals was close to Lake Draper. If somebody brings a travel trailer, a small one, pop-up, or a small boat, they'd have some place to park it, because I did get approval, written email approval from the HOA that there's no issues as long as I abide by all the city rules and regulations and get my license. And but they do require all trash cans, all motor homes, travel trailers of any type like that, boats, to be stored either off-site or behind the fence line. So, because I used to live there, actually. I bought it as my primary residence. And let's see, of course, there is a laundry, there'll be, and back patio for the guest use. And and I did go ahead and snap a couple pictures of the driveway in process. And then also there was an objection on the parking and stuff, so I took a picture of the street itself, standing in front of my property, showing how wide the streets are. It's a modern housing addition, so it's got nice wide streets. And That was a couple things I thought you might see that I did not put. That picture was just taken a few days ago when they prepped it for the concrete pour, which they did late yesterday. And just a little sidebar note, I work at Tinker and I live in Moore, so I go by there at basically 10:15 each night. A couple years from retirement, so I work night shift, volunteered for that. And so I go by the property almost exactly on my way to work, about 10:15 each evening, at least 5 days a week. And so I can keep close eye on the property, make sure the quiet hours are being observed.
Any questions from the board? Do I have anyone signed up to speak on this matter?
I've got one question, and this may be on staff. When did you say you started short-term renting this property?
I'm sorry, when I started short-term, yeah, this is first time. Yeah. And I am an experienced landlord of 25 years of other properties.
There are two written protests. There are two written
Yes.
protests. Did you get both of those?
I saw them both, yes.
Okay.
Any further questions from the board?
Just for your information, since this is the very first time this is coming up as a short-term lease, that I will approve the application for 1 year.
Okay, appreciate it.
Making an observation, so I don't see quiet time
It's
hours. Or was it?
10 p.m. to 7 a.m., I think.
Yeah, 8 a.m., 10 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Okay. And,
Item number 7 on the self-imposed.
okay. All right, that's good. Guess we're ready to entertain a motion.
With that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15413 with the self-imposed rules in the application as it meets the basis for the statutory requirement for a special exception
Second?
for 1 year.
Motion and a second. Cast your votes. And you're passed. You're approved.
You.
Item number 10, case number 1541, application for special exception of Shorty Place Property Management to allow home sharing in the R1 Single Family located at 10704 Sunset Boulevard.
Good afternoon. My name is Esther Blaine, my husband Richard Blaine, and we are landlords. We have other rental properties in the area, and we're just trying to see if we could turn this one into a home sharing.
Can you state your address, please?
10704 Sunset Boulevard in Spencer, Ward 7.
Do you live at this property right now?
No, sir.
Okay.
It was a rental property. We've had it over 20-odd years, and it used to be a rental. We're trying to turn it into a home share. But I have other rental properties in the area. I never had any problems or complaints, and
Any other questions from the board?
Can you just tell us the bedroom situation in the house? Because you're asking from 4 to 6 people. We need to tie that down to the maximum number of people.
Okay, it's a 2-bedroom with 1 bath, and in the living room, it's a let-out sofa couch for a child or whichever, but it's 2 full queen beds in each bedroom. And I do have the smoke detectors. It is up to par. I used to rent it to Section 8, and they come out and inspect, so.
Any other questions?
And again, this is the first time this is rented, so a 1-year exemption is what I would propose, and also to propose quiet hours for the property from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. or 8 a.m.
From 10 p.m.
p.m. to 8 a.m., quiet hours.
Uh-huh. You said 1 year?
Yeah.
10 p.m. to 7 a.m.
I don't have anyone signed up to speak on this matter.
Good. With that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15418 with the added self-imposed rules for maximum of 6 people, quiet hours from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., and a term of 1 year on the basis that it meets the statutory requirement for a special exception.
Second?
You're approved.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Item number 11, case number 15259, application for special exception of Benjamin Sherman to allow home sharing at 1440 Northwest 97th Street.
Hi, my name is Benjamin Sherman. I am the operator of an existing short-term rental in the county that has been going well after approval from the board. I'm here to apply for 2 addresses that are next to each other. The first one is 1440, and the second is 1436, which is the subsequent agenda item. I'll just speak to this one now. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 6 guests will be allowed to stay there. Extremely strict rules outlined in front of you. 24/7 outside security camera monitoring. No parties of any kind goes, assumed. But we also don't allow any unbooked guests, even for temporary visits. So we're extremely strict. We take being a good neighbor as our number 1 priority. And here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board? No. I do not have anyone signed up to speak on this matter. If we don't have any other questions, I guess we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15259 on the basis that it meets the statutory requirement for a special exceptions with the self-imposed rules as written in the application for a period of 1 year.
We have a motion.
Second?
In a second. All right, you're approved on this matter.
Thank you.
Item number 12, case number 15263, application for Benjamin Sherman to allow home sharing at 1436 Northwest 97th Street.
All right, go ahead and proceed.
Yes, exactly what I said last time. These are very similar homes, 3 bedrooms. 6 total guests will be allowed. You can see the extensive driveway parking available there. We do limit it to 2 cars. And same exact rules apply as you see, same exact security measures, and yes, happy to answer any questions you have.
Will you please just repeat your name and address for the record?
Oh, yes, of course. Benjamin Sherman, 1750 North Bayshore Drive.
Any questions from the board? All right, once again, I do not have anyone signed up to speak on this particular matter, so without a further question, I guess we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15263 on the basis that it meets the statutory requirement for a special exception, subject to the self-imposed rules in the application for a term of 1 year.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. And you're approved.
Thank you very much.
Item number 13, case number 15391, an application for special exception of James Hume for a home share at 7429 Northwest 107th Street.
Hello, Board. My name is James. I'm applying for 7429 Northwest 107th. This case is a continuation from the last time I was here. Can I pass some documents to you guys?
Will you please speak into the microphone?
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm applying for the special exemption. The first page that you're looking at is a letter from my neighbor, my direct neighbor. He's right next to me. He knows exactly how I operate my business rental, and he vouches for me 100%. So that's a letter to the board. If you look at the second page, it's actually a petition with all the neighbors that are surrounding my property, and they all approve my application as well. And I'm just looking for a 1-year opportunity from the board. It's a 4-bedroom house, looking for only 8 guests and 4 cars. We do have house rules in place from 10 to 8, and absolutely no parties.
Questions from the board?
Are there people to speak? Yeah, let's hear from them first.
All right, so we'll go ahead and call those that have written to or asked permission to speak. First one is it Luke Helms? She'll come up. There's a separate podium over here on the side if you would use that one.
Hey, Luke.
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Luke Helms. I live at 7434 Northwest 107. I am one of the direct neighbors. I did not sign that form. I'd be interested to know which neighbors might have signed, because I spoke to 2 other neighbors who are direct neighbors, and they also did not sign, and I'm here to speak on their behalf as well. He did come through the neighborhood Wednesday. I have some forms I will pass out in a moment. Wednesday, when Mr. James came through, he told us that it would be a 30-day long-term rental only. He said it would be 2 persons per room. He also said it would be no parking on the sidewalk. I just pulled up the VRBO. I know I cannot use a link as evidence, but if you look at his VRBO link currently, it says 12 people still. It says parking on the sidewalk still. It does not have a quiet time listed. In the description, it says great for large gatherings, which I think is a code for parties. In the reviews, less than 30 days ago, you can see a bachelorette party who thanked him for his service, and he responded how happy he was, which lets me know that he is still allowing parties, though he told us all he is denying parties. If you look online, you can see the review is still there. I also have one of the reviews in this packet. If you open up the packet on the right side, you'll see a note that I wrote before we had a brief interaction on Wednesday. And behind that, you'll see a couple of the reviews on screenshots where you can see that he is still allowing parties. Now, I'd like to be clear and say, we're not against rentals. It's the fact that I have had to call the police 2 different occasions. One for a bachelor party, which you can see the review listed here. They were playing very loud music at 1 a.m. And whenever I went across the street to try and ask for them to be quiet, I had to call the police because I was threatened myself. My issue is more to the safety of our neighborhood, and I think that goes back to the honesty of the claims and the request. If we could completely trust Mr. James here, I would have absolutely no problems with the rental. It's the fact that I had no way to contact him. Even after the first hearing, I tried to contact him and couldn't until Wednesday when I met him, to where we were told, like I said, 2 people per room, no parking on the street, which is not the current case. Now, in regards to this, it also shows that he says he has no other properties. He is still operating a rental that you all previously denied in another neighborhood. We have a representative from the other neighborhood here as well. He still has that for rent as well. So it seems that he is lying to the members here as well, and that dishonesty is what worries me. On the left side of the packet, you can see our HOA, and I took the privilege to tag points to where you can see we are against short-term rentals, just for the legality of it. My note is, of course, on the right, in which case I have already specified the few points that matter to me, which is honesty and safety. And without those 2 things, I do worry. There are many children in the neighborhood. One of his direct neighbors, who I know did not sign the lease as well, Aaron Allen, he has a newborn, and his wife is pregnant with their second. And whenever they were awakened as well by one of these parties with loud music in a family neighborhood, it becomes an issue, especially when we have no one we can contact. If there was maybe someone managing the properties, someone that we could reach out to, quiet times, those things would, give us a chance to maybe rediscuss this. But currently, it seems it's difficult whenever we're told things that don't exactly line up.
The reviews in the packet that you provided, these are showing a date from last year.
Some of them do, and then if you look, there were additional parties. I know I can't use a link. It's on TripAdvisor currently, and the date is June 21st, 2023, which was less than a month ago.
Those are not, I'm not missing those in this packet.
Correct, sir. This is after the first hearing, he took down the VRBO link, which is where those reviews come from, and he reposted it to other sites. My assumption is he knew that we were using VRBO because it was mentioned previously, and he put it on TripAdvisor now, and he has new reviews on TripAdvisors, the latest one, June 21st.
Are you currently renting the property out?
If it's more than 28 to 30 days. And remember last time when I showed you guys the dates when the code enforcer came up, and then I brought those 2 invoices showing that it was more than 28 or 30 days. Do you guys remember that? Or kind of briefly?
I remember having the discussion, so are you saying all of the bookings that you've had since?
Yeah, so anything above our hearing from the first time, we have not accepted anything 30 days or below, or 28 days and below. So we've been trying to follow the rules and, trying to make things right.
And have you shared your contact info with the neighbors?
I have.
Okay.
All the ones that are listed, I've shared my contact information with them. I've also shared my contact information with Luke when I met him the other day. So, I'm open to, talking things out and hopefully working with you, with the neighborhood. And in no way, shape, or form am I trying to have, large
Please
parties
address
and-
the
I'm sorry.
board.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Would you like to speak as to the inconsistency between your application currently listed online?
Excuse
As far
me?
as, can you speak as to the inconsistency between your request on number of people and what the listing online shows?
The number of requests, we're requesting 2 per room. What does it show online? You said 12? Is it?
I believe that it was stated that the online listing shows 12 people allowed.
Was that before our last hearing, or was that current? Because,
Luke, will you?
If I may, I have it pulled up on my phone. I'd gladly pass this around. It still shows 12 people parking on the curb,
we can
no
reduce
quiet
that.
hours.
That's no problem.
And it's
I don't
just
have-
that Wednesday, he told me 2 per room. And that's where I thought, oh, maybe he's changed things, because I was not here the first hearing. I wrote a letter for the first hearing before the continuance, but I did watch online, and I watched his previous case at the other neighborhood. And I thought, oh, maybe he's listened. I know you, sir, spoke to him quite a bit. I thought maybe he was adhering to the rules. But then whenever I checked the VRBO, I saw, oh, it seems like everything he told me was just to get a signature. It just doesn't line up still.
Have you updated the listing since the last meeting?
Have we updated the
Yeah.
listings? I have not updated it, but I can and I will update it to, 8, which is 2 per room.
Okay.
But we've only been renting the place out 30 days or above, or 28 days and above, so nothing short term.
I do have several others that are here to speak, so I want to give them the opportunity.
Okay.
I have Colleen Stevens.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Is the address
Can you please?
7429 or 7433?
7429.
Okay, well, I'm showing 7433.
Will you please state your name and
Oh,
address, please?
Colleen Stevens, 10417 Condor Terrace.
Thank you.
So this is not your property?
Will you please, when you guys speak, please address the board and not
Oh.
directly? Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, our main concerns as far as the association are, I know background checks, and I'm not sure if the Airbnbs do background checks on people. Again, I'm going to reiterate everything that Lucas said. Is there anything, if there are, I should say, police reports done on these properties, are they able to shut down the Airbnbs if anything like that happens? Do you know? Can it be shut down if there are, reports? Do you know? I
So
mean,
we can't speak to we can't speak to the abilities that law enforcement or code enforcement would have regarding police reports or incidents that are reported taking place at the property. But shutting down as it pertains to our ability to grant a license, if you can provide documentation to us that, this property is not being managed well, that is something that will definitely be taken into consideration in terms of us determining whether or not to approve or deny the application.
okay. Okay. All right, and that's all I have.
All right, thank you. I also have Miss Chelsea Husky. Will you please state your name and address?
My name is Chelsea Husky. I live at 7234 Northwest 105th Terrace, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73162. I was here in the June hearing. I'm the president of our HOA in Eagle Lake Estates. In addition to Luke's concerns that he has, we also have concerns that it is against our covenants, which is an agreement that the neighborhood has in the rules of how we operate that community. It is also not zoned. It is only zoned for residential purposes. Colleen brought up the point of background checks. That property is across the street from a school. Our neighborhood has many children. With there being no background checks, no type of regulation of who is renting and the people that are there, we have concerns for not only our adult neighbors, but also all of our children. That property has many children walking by on a regular basis to and from school, and also weekend activities. I have 35 letters, as I had before, from the homeowners that do not support or want an Airbnb in their neighborhood for many of these reasons. And I think that that's all I have to say.
Any questions for Chelsea?
Just a few items. So in here, it's outside our purview to use the neighborhood covenants. And so we talked about that last time also, just for your knowledge on that. And also, I think that I try to, make this palatable for the homeowner and the neighborhood, and definitely the neighbors that are directly affected by it. And so I will do as much as I can to help protect you in that way. But we have to follow the guidelines that are given to us, and so just know that. And all of the protesters understand that we do look at these individually, and we are guided to follow the certain rules that we have to follow.
Understood.
More comments or questions from the board? Just some observations from me personally. I understand you're wanting to get this application approved, right? And in doing so, I would do my darnest to make sure that my listing and everything is appropriate, is correct, so that you don't have people protesting about the number of people on the listing.
I understand.
I do, it's a lot, it seems that we're getting a lot of he said, she said right now. And to me, that's still concerning. I'm not sure which way the board's what kind of motions are gonna be made. Again, we follow the rules. Obviously, we've approved a lot. If all the criteria is met, and we feel like the person or whoever's going to be in charge of that property is making at least a solid effort to present that they can be trustworthy. And I think that right now there's a lot of questions about that.
Honestly, I think it's, since the beginning, it's just, there's been a bad painting of me and my brother, when in reality, that's not how we operate. If you just read the letter too from my neighbor, he understands. He lives right next to me, and so he understands, everything that happens, directly with that property. And then also, all these neighbors that I've received petitions from, they live all around, directly around the house too. And they, unfortunately, they're not here today, but if they were here, they would definitely say positive things. And honestly, I'm just looking for a year opportunity to prove myself to the board and also to the neighborhood. So if given that chance, you guys definitely won't be disappointed.
Could I say something? So not all of the neighbors, that isn't true. Not all of the neighbors directly around the homes do approve. Mr. Helms is one of them that does not approve. And if I could say one more thing, that it is, if you are running a business, it is your responsibility to make sure that your documentation, your marketing, your websites are current and up to date and trustworthy. How can we count on your word if you're lacking in all of the areas that make what you say consistent? We can't. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have two things that I want to try to get clarification on if I can. There was a comment made earlier in regards to the rentals that have been taking place, and Mr. Nguyen has addressed that those have been a month or longer. Are you guys aware of any short-term rentals that have taken place since then, or are you not able to determine how long those guests have been there?
I'm going to let Luke speak.
Thank you. I have noticed that there have been 3 different groupings of cars within the last 2 months, inconsistent with 30-day rentals. And I would like to say, once more, we're not against things like renting. It's if the regulations and the rules can be obeyed, and it's just a worry on the trust of that. Things like, multiple cars on the street. There have been days where you literally cannot go through because they're larger vehicles and it's a narrow street that don't park the best. But if we could ensure, 2 people per room, not 12, no parking on the street, it was safe, then there wouldn't be the issue. It's the trust issue that comes with that. But no, in the past 2 months, he has had at least 3 renters within that time period. A couple were weekend renters by the vehicles arriving on Friday and leaving Tuesday.
Then the other concern was there was a comment made regarding a previous property that we had come before us, and that was being rented.
The Edgewater property?
Do you have a response on that one?
That one we have not been renting out short term. That I can tell you for sure. Last time when I was here, the 2 documents that I provided to you guys, one of them was for the 107 part, which is this property, and then the other document was for the Edgewater property, and both were 28 days or 30 days and above. So it has not, no short-term rentals.
The homeowner that is in that neighborhood that's saying that she's seeing the renters, what she's seeing is long-term renters as well.
She's saying there's...
From what I understand, from the comments earlier. So if she's seeing renters, you're saying that those renters are over a month stays as well at that property?
At the other property?
Correct.
Yes.
Is there anyone else?
There's no one else signed up to speak on this. Did you say you can't get receipts? Because what I'm hearing is your neighbors are saying that you've got short-term rentals. You're saying that you have not rented this out for less than 28 days.
I can provide that information. That's not a problem.
Okay.
I can provide that to Cindy. And I'm sorry, Marcus and Don, I think I gave you guys those documents last time, so the last time I was here to provide, proof. That was after the code enforcer came up, and then I wish I have it with me, but unfortunately I don't. But I can provide that to Sydney, that's not a problem.
Okay, I'm just wondering, and I'm not sure if I can make recommendations on what to do, but I think that we may have to continue this to a later date and have this receipts, because I hear conflicting reports as to whether it's short-term or not.
Okay, can I get those to you right now?
I believe that we've got a deadline from which to submit. I'm not sure. Where is it?
Or conversely, if any of the neighbors have documentation that the alternative has taken place. I know previously that was one of the things, there were some neighbors that showed up and they had documented as well, because just like our chair has stated, I mean, we're in a period of where this is kind of getting into he said, she said, where it's hard if we can't substantiate, the terms of how long these people stayed, or whether or not there's still short-term rentals taking place, or and I'm not at all trying to put that onus on you. I definitely feel like the onus should be on the owner that's operating to have that, but it was very helpful before when we had homeowners that said, hey, here's photos of vehicles that, parking on my lawn, because that removes all doubt. So I will say that it is very helpful when a statement is made if there's some documentation that helps support it, because we're not there, we don't live in the neighborhood. So it makes the job a whole lot easier when we can review that documentation.
And just a couple things from me and Luke. What you said, about no on-street parking. Limit the maximum number of people that can be at the home. Quiet hours, a 1-year exemption. I think continuous, it maybe not getting us to the spot we want to be. I'm ready to make a motion today and just see where we are.
Any other comments from you guys?
No. My last comment would be, if approved, I would request that the board go through and mandate number of guests, parking, quiet hours. I heard you mention that with a few others. I'm not sure if there's a way to enforce that on Airbnb or not, just to enforce that it does not happen,
We can enforce what he puts up on Airbnb. That's totally up to him. But as the neighbors and the homeowners surrounding the property, contacting code enforcement is your only option on that. And again, that's the only thing we would see. So.
Questions for council. What is the process for revoking a special exception if granted?
That would be something that would need to come from staff. We'll get back with you on the details about how that would happen. I don't know that actually has happened. Sarah seems to have a book open, the page.
Hi, Sarah Welch, Planning Department. I'm not aware that it's happened either, but our municipal code does have a process. It's Article 4, and staff would initiate the question if a special exception was out of compliance, and we would bring that to you.
It appears to me that if granted and evidence was presented to the contrary that somebody was operating outside the scope of the special exception, that could be brought before the board before a 1-year exception.
Yes, the code says that staff would refer the question to you of whether or not the special exception was in compliance with what you approved.
Okay.
So we would docket that on an agenda.
Okay.
Another question for staff, and that is, if the applicant was to market the property online in a different way, say 12 people or whatever, above what the application and the license is for, again, then code enforcement could use that.
That would be a violation of the special exception, and we could use the process that Sarah just explained, or they would be operating outside of the special exception, and code enforcement could look into it, and you would have a report from them as well.
I apologize for the interruption. I do not have multiple pictures throughout. I thought about taking photos as evidence, and I do have photos of this, the last weekend stay, where you can see multiple vehicles in the drive and on the street. It's one event, but it is something, if you'd like to see.
Well, I think on that, as long as it stands that Mr. Nguyen is stating that it was a longer-term rental, it wouldn't matter simply because our purview, our scope doesn't include those. So if he parked on the street or anything, we just don't have any jurisdiction over that. I will say that I think that the question that the chair raised and the subsequent information that we received does point to probably a possible tool, I think a very effective tool as it pertains to policing and enforcing, is that you asked the question earlier as far as like if we could limit the number of cars and number of people per state. That is something that we can do. So I would say if you wanted to record that information and say, okay, this is what I know governs the special exception, anything that you find that's inconsistent with that, whether it's through the marketing or through the actual application of the process of renting out the home, that gives you a standing to then take to code enforcement and to staff and say, you know, this person is operating outside of the special exception that they received.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir.
And to add to that, after every case, we create the board order for each application. And the application has the terms that they have to abide by. And we put the term on there, we put the number of people, and those are the factors that if we want to bring something that says that they're doing something outside of what you agreed on at this meeting, then that's what code enforcement can use as their tool, because it's a board order that we send to them after 10 days.
A couple of questions for you, James. On this application, would you be willing to make the adjustment to allow a maximum of 6 people?
6 people?
6
We have
people.
8, we have 4 bedrooms.
Right. Would you be willing to take it to 6 people for the first year?
For the first year? I mean, if that gets my application approved, then, you know, I'm willing to make some sacrifices.
No on-street parking
No on-street parking,
and maximum of 3 cars?
maximum 3 cars, even though it's a 2-car garage and 2 on the driveway? Okay,
I'm trying to get you an application.
all right, let's do it. And Cindy, I'll send you the invoices, just so we have that
Okay.
on file.
Any other questions or comments from anyone? You guys ready to make a motion then? All right.
Yep. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 15391 on the basis that it meets the statutory requirement for a special exception subject to the self-imposed rules with the adjustment of a maximum of 6 people, 3-car maximum, no on-street parking, quiet hours are listed, and for a term of 1 year.
You have a motion?
Second.
And a second. You're approved as stated.
All right, thank
All right,
you.
wish you
I
the best.
appreciate you guys. You guys won't be disappointed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I don't
We'll
know.
go back to item number 4, case number 15415. Request of John Rinke on behalf of Ty Phillips for a variance to side and rear yard setback in the R1 district located at 3400 Northwestern.
All right, do we have anyone here on this application?
Apparently barely, yes. My name is John Reinke, and I'm here for this particular application.
All right, state your name and your address, and tell us a little bit about your application, please.
Let's see, my name is John Reinke. My address is 2304 Northwest 26th Street. And the reason that we're before you today is my client, in this case, asked me if they could build a garage. And I was like, well, no. And they said, well, why not? And I said, because we have these setbacks and you really just can't fit it there. And so I said, now, looking at the property, and if you guys have reviewed the package, you'll see that in one of the photographs of the backyard, and there's let's see, a little bit further, right there, that building that you can see there is actually the eastern neighbor's garage. And just on the left-hand side of the same picture, you can see that the eave of the next garage over there on that next property is basically about 1 foot away from the fence line. And you can't see it in this particular picture, but you can just see the edge of the roof line for the adjacent property to the north. And I'm certain you guys don't really hear all the interesting things that we found out about this whole development while we're going through this process, but the long and short of it is that the way that this has developed is people have been treating it almost like a zero lot kind of thing. And so what we want to do is build basically right up to the property line, and then of course our structure will have no penetrations. We'll be using 1 hour fire construction as mandated by code, and so that's kind of what we are intending to do. And the reason that we want this particular thing is they've had a tremendous amount of foot traffic from people who are going to the park that's just north of here. And there's a lot of interesting properties around them with some transient, attractants. And so they've had more than one person make their way back into their property, regardless of the fence. So what they really want is to be able to have something that they can securely store their vehicles and have interior access to the home from the garage. So, which is the plan that we have proposed. I believe we've made a pretty good case that it will not diminish from the existing character of the neighborhood, or because of the way that we're planning on constructing this, it will also not present any sort of real problem or danger to any of the adjacent properties. So from the best of my ability to discern, it's going to be, it'll be a really nice addition to this corner property and really give them better utility for the home. Does anybody have any specific questions that I can answer?
There was a question in the packet about the services to the building, the water, the sewer, electrical,
sorry,
or any of them under the proposed construction?
No, all of the utilities feed from, this is not in the utility easement according to the plats, but we get all of our stuff from the outside of the property. So we have no concerns about utility easements or about the utilities, so we're clear of that. Both for the adjacent, obviously that question is really about not necessarily this, but the other people.
I kind of was wondering where the sewer main easement is over here, because maybe your neighbors didn't get a variance and maybe they just built that building right over the top of it, or I'm not sure, but somewhere or another, sewer's going through here, water's going through here,
Yeah,
electrical's going through here.
it's a really interesting property. So,
Can staff help us out on this, as far as just, even if it was zoned R1, ZL, I mean,
Sarah Welch, Planning Department. We actually talked to utilities about that because in this area of the city, the private lines, we don't know where they are. The utilities doesn't know. So the sewer line is about a block to the north and a block to the south. And we just put a comment in the staff report from our utilities department just to put the applicant on notice that should you go through the building permit review and it's determined there's a private sewer line that you could potentially be building over it. And that would have to be something that the applicant would have to research. Utilities was not able to confirm where the private sewer line is.
I missed that in the staff comments,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. So, and now I understand the comment, so, or the question. So, as far as the private sewer line is concerned, since it would be, the utility of this particular, client, that pretty much be a non-issue as far as they are concerned. So, it also wouldn't impact anybody else, so. Any other questions I can answer?
No, I don't have anyone signed up to speak on this matter. So I think it's up to the board to see what questions we have.
so we would be granting a variance to the side yard setback, and he can do whatever he wants to do to encroach to the property line?
That's essentially what we're asking to do. Our actual build plan puts us, I think, 1 foot off of the property line. So, we're trying to give it a little bit of grace for, fencing and maintenance and, what have you. It's not really pertinent to this particular project, but I do a lot of work in the historic neighborhoods where, our buildings are literally sitting on the property line. And, so we have to, work with the adjoining neighbors to make sure that we know what's happening with the water from the roof line. And, we've painted the sides of our buildings to match their decor and things like that. And we'll be doing that again here, should we be allowed to build it. So, but the first step is, can we build it?
One interesting comment that you made is that there are, and I don't think it has any basis on this one, but on this application, but did you say there are other lots in the area that are essentially do not have any sort of yard around that?
That don't have any sort of yard?
Yeah, I mean, are they all built, are they building up to 1 foot off the property line?
Oh, well, yeah, in the picture that we looked at together, a little bit earlier on, and that garage is essentially, that you're looking at, that's part of the backyard. It's within inches of the property line. So, for all intents and purposes, it's sitting on the property line. And the fence that defines my client's yard terminates into the edge of the garage. So yeah, and that's why we feel like, if this is to be allowed, it will not be unusual in this neighborhood, it's because it's pretty much what people have already done. So whether they've done it legally or not, of course, is, not mine to judge or even know about. But what we are looking at is what the actual facts on the ground look like. So, as they stand here, so.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's pretty common, and the lots are very, none of them are like really standardized lots. And I can only assume that that's because of the way that it was released over time. But, that's speculation.
Have you and your client considered any alternative configurations for this, reducing the size, like something that would allow him to be able to still have it but be compliant as it is?
We've looked at it a couple of different ways, but because of the placement of the house on the lot, and it doesn't really work in any other way. essentially, we're already reducing the garage to essentially a one-car garage instead of a two, which is typical, just to make it fit. So we've got essentially space for a one-car garage and then a small transitional area between the parking area and the actual home itself. So yeah, there really aren't a lot of ways that I haven't been able to come up with. Yeah, if we went to the front, we'd be into the setback from Western, and the house, the house to the east really encroaches the property line with their driveway, and we only have 10 feet on that side anyway. So, and even if we tried to go on that side, we'd still have to get a variance to do it. So pretty much the only place they can have a secure structure is in this corner. So it's this or nothing, really. As far as I'm able to discern, we haven't looked at anything truly radical like, carving underneath the house or anything like that. But, I think that's definitely beyond what's reasonable.
I think for me, it would really help me if I knew if the other 3 property owners that have already built have permits. Because what I don't want to do here is start the process that we grant you your variance and then they come back and get 3 more variances where we could have maybe not had this situation.
I completely understand. So this, last time I sat before you guys, I'm which you may or may not recall, I spend a lot of time talking to the historic preservation people, and where does the slippery slope start, is a big conversation in that context, in this one as well. So, our basic contention is that the ship's already sailed for the most part, on this particular block, So everything is already in a built condition. So whether it's been done correctly or not. So we're seeking to do it correctly, but, but we are limited because of what we found when we approached this project, so.
Would you be willing to defer this for 2 weeks so we could get more information?
For 2 weeks?
Can we do 2 weeks? Or I guess our next meeting is the 17th, is that right?
August 3rd.
August, yeah.
August 17th.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. And my client does have a certain sense of urgency, and none of the reasons behind his sense of urgency is really germane to you guys' consideration. But I don't think that 2 weeks would be a deal killer for us, no. So that would be, if that's, so yeah, I'd be curious to see what more information could come up. Because we went down a lot of rabbit holes on this one already, so.
Well, I do echo the same thoughts that it is important whether or not that those encroachments are legal or not, or if they've been granted a variance, because I do think it holds more weight to come in, if an applicant were to come in and say, you've granted variances on these, then, to your point earlier, the ship has already sailed. People simply going outside of the city's prescribed process, in this instance, Board of Adjustment, is not sufficient to, in my opinion, to say, well now this is an allowed,
Right.
It should just be an allowed
Yeah,
variance.
we have a lot of those same conversations in the HP thing. Just because someone else did it wrong doesn't mean you can do it wrong also. So, and ultimately, we want to do it the right way. So, but that's here. So, and so, yeah. So I think we're just circling the same point, really. But if we needed a 2 week thing, that would be fine. And so at that point, we definitely would want to, call for a go, no go, so that we could, make our plans and make them happen.
So just a question for staff, is that okay? Can we ask for the continuance and then you get us that information?
there wasn't any current variances that was on our current GIS, but I will definitely research previous years and we'll find out.
I'm sorry, Cynthia, did you say there are no variances
I
currently?
didn't see any on the current screen for anything recently,
Mhm.
but I will definitely research all those addresses and find out if anything was ever done
Okay,
or requested.
yeah.
And I'll have that by our August 3rd meeting.
All right, you have a motion?
With that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue case number 15415 to the August 3rd meeting.
We have a motion.
Second.
One second. And that passes. It's been moved to August 3rd. Appreciate it.
Okay, August 3rd. And just to be clear, is there anything else that I need to provide? Or are we just looking for more information from the research throughout the city?
That's all I needed.
Okay. All right, well, we can deal with that. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Guess see you in a couple weeks.
So item 14, 15, and 16 have been withdrawn, so we're at the end of our docket.
Okay. Looking on here, no additional items, and it looks like there are no communication reports from board, committees, members, or counselors. And so, do we have any citizens that are present that would like to be heard? Okay. Is there any other business to address? All right. If there's no other business, this meeting is adjourned. Yes.